The Discover Montcalm podcast is brought to you by WGLM 106.3 FM, Be More Media, Busy Bees Embroidery and Vinyl Signs, West Michigan Technology and Design Solutions, and DW Video. Welcome to the Discover Montcalm podcast, where we are going to look at the communities, the businesses, the attractions, and the people that make up Montcalm County. Here is your podcast host, Duane Weed.
Hello and welcome to the 102nd episode of the Discover Montcalm podcast. My name's Duane. I'm your host and the producer. Thank you for 102 episodes. And what's kind of interesting here, I got Bill Garlick with me. He's from the Fighting Falcon Museum in Greenville. And what's kind of neat, Bill, thank you for stopping by, is that you were part of episode number 2.
Which is coincidentally good.
I mean, and just so the audience knows, I planned that, and I'm lying. Okay. So anyways, after I'd asked Bill, because I knew that there was a lot of things happening at the museum. I keep seeing your Facebook post, and I'm going, you know what? I should probably do it, because it's been almost 2 years. Let's do an update. And it wasn't until after you and I had booked the time that it dawned on me that, wow, second episode, I'm going to put you at 102. So this is the 102nd episode of the Discover Montcalm podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Discover Montcalm Podcast. And you can go to discovermontcalmpodcast.com and check out all of the episodes. So, Bill, again, thank you for making the trip from Greenville over here. Let's start so that they don't have to go back and, you feel free to go back to episode number 2, because Bill Delp, right?
Bill Delp, yes, sir.
Bill Delp. Back in 2011, when I was teaching at the Greenville Public School, we had a 7th hour class there. My class went in and we interviewed Bill. And I think in 2019 or so, did he pass?
No, that's close.
Okay, we might not be
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yes. But for those that really want to know about the history of the aircraft, the Fighting Falcon, and the history and where it got its name, you need to go back to episode 2. Because the reason I brought you in here today is I'd like to say, okay, it's been almost 2 years. What's going on? What has been going on at the Fighting Falcon Museum in Greenville?
Well, there's been a lot of exciting things happening, at least the way we tend to look at it. We've all aged, and Bill was the last of the original members of the Fighting Falcon construction crew and board and the founders of the museum. This is the 20th anniversary of the museum. We're having a big get-together on the 25th of August.
So
this may not air at that time.
Yeah, exactly. So on August 25th, 20 years.
20 years. For
the museum. 20 years ago, who sparked this? How do you?
That goes back. And fortunately, I've been around there long enough so I could go back a long ways. It actually started in '93.
Okay.
If you really want to say something, it actually started in 1940, but we won't go into a 4-hour details on this. But in '93, a secretary up at the Greenville High School got a letter from a gentleman from Texas who was part of the team that built the gliders in England.
Okay.
And Fighting Falcon is famous worldwide, if people don't know that. And he wanted to know what kind of memorial was for the Fighting Falcon in Greenville, and she didn't know. She didn't know what Fighting Falcon was. That led to a whole convolution of things, and suddenly there was a movement afoot to create a Fighting Falcon.
Okay.
And then at the time, it was the History Society in Greenville and the Fighting Falcon were tied together. And about 2004, we split.
Okay.
And I'm on both boards, so I can say we and be right no matter how I do it.
So 2 years ago, that would have been 2022. I had asked you in because Bill Delp wasn't here to give me an intro to the show, and that his interview was so in depth. I mean, it's a if you're interested in any history, we go into a lot more detail. But I'd ask you to come in so that we could kind of do an intro and an outro at the time, because in 2022, we did the interview in 2011, things had changed. Well, we waited a long time from 2011 to 2022. You caught us all up. So in the past 2 years, what has been going on? I know that probably a lot right now around the 20th. But in the last 2 years, can you bring us up to date on?
I can add some flavor to this.
Would you please?
First of all, we have started shifting from just there's display cases with items in it. We're now doing. I'm losing the term, but we're doing displays where you can see the
dioramas.
Thank you.
Yes.
Diorama is. I'm not quite sure that's precise, but it's precise enough for
I know
all
when
of
we
us.
talked, that was a term that you used to me.
Right.
So okay.
And we've got several of those now. I can't remember whether we had our actual glider simulator working at that time, but we have one that you can actually set on. It's programmed so that you can get a feel for what it's like to fly one of these CG-4A gliders.
Okay.
Which, by the way, they like to fly. They like to fly better than anything that's pulling them. So it's an interesting feeling to get behind it, and after a while, you'll be involved in it. But that's one thing. We've also changed our walls, for lack of a better description. We've added footage to the walls to give us more display area and to guide you better through the entire chronology of the Second World War. And mostly the ground floor is Second World War.
Okay.
And we've changed around the glider. Now you get to see the construction, but you get to see what it was like to be part of that construction. You can actually stand right next to it and look and go, wow, and look at that person. Mannequin, of course, but that person doing something.
If the mannequin ever moves, people are going to go.
Yeah.
West Michigan Technology and Design Solutions is your local source for managed IT, websites design and hosting, digital marketing, and more. Check them out at WMTDS.com. Check out Busy Bees Embroidery and Vinyl Signs, your one-stop shop for your embroidery and screen printing needs. Located south of Stanton, go to CVSDBusyBees.com.
Real quick, before we go on with the history, where is the museum located?
Okay, it's 516 West Cass Street, Greenville, Michigan.
Repeat that one more time.
516 West Cass Street, Greenville, Michigan.
And your website?
Oh, sure. You got the wrong cowboy for this.
Okay, Google it.
Yeah. Google
Fighting Falcon Museum. It's probably the only one in Greenville. And then you've got a Facebook presence.
And we have a Facebook page, which has been improved by people who actually are involved with Facebook. Yes. So we now actually have a Facebook site that you can go to it. It changes regularly and it updates you and all kinds of things. It's active rather than almost passive.
I get it.
So, and then one of the things that we're going to celebrate is it took about 2.5 years, but we now have created and installed a flag field celebrating all the military services. And the flags of each department are at the points of what would be, if you looked at it down from the top, the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Okay.
And that's part of the dedication. We're going to dedicate a little plaque there for the 20th and a number of things there, but it's right out there now. So we've got all the military flags, and the American flag and the POW flag. Sure. And it really looks nice. We've changed our sidewalk because that had gotten, well, it was probably last fixed before we did it around 1968 or something like that.
And just for a little history, what was the building before it became the museum?
Sure. Originally, it was the Cass Street School, which, interesting enough, had two names. It was the Union School, And then it burned down, and they renamed it to Cass Street School because they had moved on and called the big school the Union School,
Okay.
which was all the way from kindergarten through high school, and then gradually it became middle school, high school, then it was just middle school, and then it was torn down.
Okay. So that's, for those of you that are listening, we're talking about the Fighting Falcon Museum in Greenville, and kind of the history of the building. Used to be a school. It's kind of neat to grab some of that history along the way. We're going to continue to talk with Bill, but we're going to thank our sponsors right after this.
We would like to thank our sponsor, M1063, WGLM, FM, your locally owned and operated radio station, playing the widest variety of music to keep you moving with local news, sports, and weather. Visit m1063.com. Be More Media helps businesses be seen, be heard, and be more profitable. Be More Media helps small businesses get seen on Google and found through digital marketing and print marketing strategies. Visit them at bemoremedia.com.
Welcome back to the Discover Montcalm podcast. I have Bill Garlick here from the Fighting Falcon Museum in Greenville, Michigan. Bill, we were talking a little bit about August 25th will be the 40th or the 20th anniversary of the museum, and this podcast is probably going to air after that. But 20 years, that's quite a celebration. Talk to me or share with me some of the things that if somebody out there is listening and they go, wow, I've got a little extra time, I'd like to volunteer. What does it take to really keep the museum open?
Well, there's two things. Enthusiastic board members, because we are also the docents by, I don't know any way to do it.
Yeah.
Almost every museum that's small in the country that's not financed by somebody, your volunteers are your docents. Your board members are generally going to be your docents. And a docent is one of those individuals that when you come through the door, there's a smiling face that says, welcome, glad to see you.
Yeah.
Been here before?
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
And how can we help you out? How did you find us? We've this year we've tried something a little more exciting. We've added 2 electronic billboards out on M57.
Okay.
One of them facing west, so when you're eastbound, and one of them when you're facing east, so you're westbound, and you get to see them. And an electronic billboard, and it changes periodically, but you'll see the Fighting Falcon up there. And the address, 516 West Cass Street. We're only open once day a week, which is Sunday from 2 to 4:30. The reason is that we've only got X number of docents and we all have things to do. But during the period, if you go to the museum, you're going to find somebody enthusiastically willing to help you hit the history of this little area in the middle of Michigan where who would know? And there's so many connections to all of the military activities from the Civil War on, and technically it goes before that, but from the Civil War on.
I was gonna say that it started off with the secretary receiving a phone call about the Fighting Falcon, and that was one branch.
That kicked off the who is this, what is this, and how come I don't know about that? One of my favorite sayings if I don't get him in trouble, who forgot to mention that?
Yeah.
And I went all the way through high school in Greenville. I've got friends that went all the way through high school in Greenville. And we didn't know how. I'm playing 15 years at it, and every weekend I find out something that I didn't know from somebody that came in and came to find more information about their city.
So all branches of the military are
all represented.
And all the wars.
Everything from the Civil War on.
Okay.
Greenville wasn't founded until 1844. There was a guy from Greenville that fought in the Black Hawk War with Lincoln.
Okay.
But we don't have any artifacts, so that's just one of those, now you know, and
exactly.
Here we are,
Yeah.
you know. But after that Civil War, Greenville was prominent in the Civil War. And then along came the Spanish-American War, and we've got a man that fought in the Spanish-American War in the Navy, and that's another long story. But the short version is that he did something so heroic that the first Navy ship named after an enlisted man was named after an enlisted man from Greenville.
Well, isn't that cool? And we won't give away all of it.
Oh, no, I'm not going to tell you the name.
Because we want people to go and dive into this history a little bit more and to, kind of do things. So you've got your volunteers that you need. I'm sure that, either on your website, Facebook page, if somebody's interested in donating.
Donations are the other thing we need.
Because, yes, we were talking about the things that you need. It takes time, money, and people. And maybe and those three things probably change the order depending on what's happening.
We are entirely funded through donations. We do not have any government subsidies at all. So we own the property. We're 501c3, so it's a tax-deductible donation.
Okay.
And we've had some very nice donations help us out. We can still use more.
Well, because
we have ongoing things we want to do.
So you want heat in the building?
Yeah.
You want to make sure the roof is still good and all of that stuff. So August 25th is the 20th anniversary celebration. What are some of the things that you're going to dedicate the flag?
We're going to dedicate that flag field. We're going to have, it'll be too late maybe, but we're going to have a food truck there. We're going to have, of 1:30 this afternoon, we're not going to have a reenactment, but we are going to have uniforms from Vietnam era.
Okay. So I guess the best thing to do, because this podcast will probably air after it, is go to, look up Fighting Falcon Museum, go to the website, go to the Facebook page, take a look at what's going on. On Sundays, you said what are the times?
2 to 4:30 on Sunday.
And you can check the Facebook page or you can contact them. What is the phone number?
Oh, boy, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't call it. But I do have one thing to say.
All right, go ahead.
Is we are absolutely handicap accessible. We're 2 floors, and we have an elevator to get any ambulatorily questionable people to the 2nd floor. And that's kind of important. Ground floor is still elevated, but we have ramps to get you there.
Okay.
So we are 100% handicap accessible.
As I'm going to look here real quick for the phone number, you grew up in the Montcalm County area.
I grew up in the Greenville area.
In the Greenville area. In your opinion, I mean, you lived here. You probably worked in the area. You raised a family here. What's your favorite memory of the Greenville area that might bring up a little history that people would say, it doesn't have to be about the museum, okay? Just, something you remember as a kid, could you share something with us?
Wow, is that an interesting question? Because I've got memories. What's my favorite? For one thing, I guess I won't say it's my favorite memory because maybe it's not my favorite memory, but the conversion of M57 to M57, because in 1964 the state decided to put that big sweeping curve in west of Greenville and cross between Ziegenfuss Lake and Little Ziegenfuss Lake, and before that it was an S curve around and over to Lincoln Lake Road. And now we've got this big sweeping mile curve that makes it fairly convenient to drive. So that's a memory for me because I actually walked that when it was dirt and mud with the engineer because I was the only one that knew about that neighborhood.
Okay. So there's some memories that,
right,
57, I'm sure you remember a lot of the the change to downtown, because probably at some point it was just 2-lane coming through downtown.
Oh, yes.
Without a turn lane. And, anything else from the history before we give everybody the website?
Well, I tell you one thing about the other road, the old M57. Back in the 50s, if you bought a new car and you wanted to see how good it was, you tried to take those corners at speed. And the net result was I had a case of flares that the state police gave us to put out there so that we could mark the failures on their speed tests.
Well, I may or may not have, in a different area, north of Morley, there's S-curves.
Uh-huh.
And I may or may not have got triple digits in those curves.
Yeah. Oh, there would be no triple digits in this.
No, but a little different thing. But,
right, exactly.
Young and dumb, maybe?
Well, no, most of them were early middle age. I got to see a lot of people that I never saw before. In any case,
yes.
Those are memories that most of those memories are not worth reliving.
No, and I'm and like a lot of things, I'm glad there weren't phones and cameras attached to the phones back when I was growing up, because now it's just a memory. It's not documented.
Yeah, we can remember it the way we wish to remember it.
That's right. And my buddies tell me when I'm no, Duane, that isn't how it happened.
That's good.
It's always nice to have friends that keep you in line. So, Fighting Falcon, or is it The Fighting Falcon?
I bet it says the.
TheFightingFalcon.com is the website.
Okay.
But for those that are trying to find it, I know it will be up on the screen here on the YouTube video that we have. We've talked a lot about the museum. You got to check it out. Is there anything about the museum or the area that we haven't talked about that you'd like to leave us on a note? Maybe something about the museum that would be enticing?
Enticing. Well, for one thing, there is so much military history in Greenville. I like to say that if there was something important that happened between the start of the Civil War and the current conflicts, there was almost without a doubt somebody from Greenville directly involved in it.
Okay.
And literally, we have a whole museum full of that.
So, Fighting Falcon Museum is located where?
516 West Cass Street, Greenville, Michigan.
And the phone number
is
616-225-1940. So 616-225-1940. You can go to thefightingfalcon.com and you can check out the website. And I just did a search for Fighting Falcon Museum, and it just popped up. So there's a lot of stuff out there, and if you're interested in history or you've got a family that you're looking for something to do that might be a little different, go check us out. If you've got time to volunteer, you've got extra money you'd like to donate, time, money, and people. So, Bill, I thank you again coming here for
Thank you, Duane.
102nd episode of the Discover Montcalm podcast. For those that want to get a lot more history, you can check out episode number 2 with Bill Delp. Very insightful, very detailed about the whole aircraft. I remember that very vividly, so there's a couple things there, but nothing really takes the place of showing up at the museum in Greenville, the Fighting Falcon Museum in Greenville. So, Bill, thanks again for stopping by. My name's Duane, the host and producer of the Discover Montcalm podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Discover Montcalm Podcast or discovermontcalmpodcast.com to check out all the episodes. Go there, grab the RSS feed, put it in your favorite podcast viewer or app, and check out all the episodes. Thank you for tuning in and listening and watching. And remember to buy and shop locally.
The Discover Montcalm podcast is produced by content creator Duane Weed, celebrating 40 years at DW Video and Multimedia LLC at dwvideo.com or call 231-250-9624. Connect and follow the Discover Montcalm podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Check out all our episodes at discovermontcalmpodcast.com. We look forward to featuring your business, community, nonprofit, events, and more. Contact Duane at 231-250-9624, 231-250-9624. Thank you for tuning in and following the Discover Montcalm podcast.